What's up, everybody? Welcome to the latest live episode of Real Estate Uncensored. This is the place where you learn how to reach more people online, build influence, and attract ideal clients. We are talking about how to stay focused, how to stay sharp, how to stay on track. We're going to talk a little bit about morning routines, and we've got a great person here to share on that with us, Ryan Snow, the co-author of Miracle Morning for Salespeople. And we're going to talk about kind of the latest of what's going on just in the Miracle Morning community in general, and how you can use morning routines to stay focused in, let's say, trying times, and put it that way. So first of all, we'll bring Ryan in a second. But before we do that, the junior grandmaster, Greg McDaniel, is in the co-pilot seat where you so belong. Greg, what's up?
What up, homie? Oh, dude. Okay. You want to talk about morning routines? My morning routine today was 100% not supposed to be routine. So I'm really I'm encouraged, and I look forward to speaking with Ryan, with Evil Bald Ninja, who's extra bald. His head literally looks like a flashlight because it's so shiny. It's amazing. And of course, as always, with the micro famous man, Matt Johnson, I cannot wait to enjoy this conversation. So Ryan, dude, welcome. I've been a massive fan of that book that you guys wrote. And so, I mean, let's break it down, man. Let's get in the dirt. Let's get gritty. Let's get nasty.
Wait, can I ask a question here real quick before we get that?
The honest proposal I've had so far on a podcast yet.
I just want to save myself some time here. Do you have to be somebody who's up in the morning regularly in order to participate in this conversation? Because if that's the case, I'm out.
Great question. No, you can do it anytime when you first get up. So it's about taking control of the beginning of your day.
I love, even if it's at 1 p.m.
Even 1 p.m.
I love it. Okay, I'm in.
You're such a slacker. Oh my God.
Cannot believe that's actually true. Gene, do you take your kids to school in the morning or something? Are you rustling cattle? Do you need to milk cows in the morning before you can do your thing?
No, we're in the middle of a quarantine, brother.
I was gonna say.
Kids going to school. I'm just laying around in bed. Daddy, get up. What's wrong? And I'm like, nothing, kids. It's 11:30. Leave me be.
Okay.
That's actually true, because I literally have been finding my day progressively getting later into the day, and I'm like, this is so normal. I'm like,
I'm wildly jealous. My day is ever since the start of the lockdown. I started waking up at 3 and 4 in the morning, so my morning routines have been thrown all off. So I'm excited to get into the conversation. Ryan, just because you haven't been on the show before, and the audience may be more familiar with Hal than you and the original book, so to speak. Yeah. So just catch us up and give us the 60-second overview, who you are, where you are, your main gig, and then we'll talk about the morning routine stuff.
Yeah, so where I am, my background started in sales with Cutco with Hal 20 years ago. I ran a Cutco office for them, ran one of the top branch offices in the country when he was kicking butt as a sales rep out in California. We only crossed paths a couple of times back then at national conferences, but we ended up hanging in the same circles with leaders that came out of that company that are still close friends of ours, and that's what kept us connected. So when he launched the Miracle Morning book, the original book, I was on the book launch team. There was about 12 of us. And during those conversations, we started talking about the fact that I had been using it with my sales team. I had spent 7 years teaching in a classroom until I started having some kids and realized teaching is so much fun, but doesn't pay that well and doesn't manage having 3 kids. So I shifted gears and got my real estate license, went back into sales, and I built a sales team with Keller Williams. That was 8 years ago now, I guess. And right around the same time, Hal and I started talking about the fact that I had been using the Miracle Morning with my sales team and found it to be really effective. And I asked him if he had thought about doing a series and narrowing the focus for salespeople. And that's kind of where the book series came from. And we just started working on it. And it was the course of about 2 years coming out with this next iteration of it. And so it was just about adding specific things that people could do to their morning routine on top of the savers he had given, how to gear them towards salespeople. And then we took it the next step. So if we were going to do the next step in personal development for salespeople, what would it be? And so we built things around time management, focus and clarity, things that I feel like a lot of salespeople struggle with in general. And then we did some essential sales skills at the end around presenting and closing and finding your target, your top, your 10 plus level customers, and added those to the book as well. So just built onto the routine that was already there and customized it for salespeople.
And where's the KW sales team? Where are you guys located at?
So that was in Beverly, which was a suburb of Boston, Mass.
Okay.
I've since closed down my sales team. I became a team leader for KW for a few years, ran an office for 3 years in Westford, Mass, and then quit that job and traveled around for about a year and a half teaching the Miracle Morning Workshop all over the place. Since then, have gone through a divorce and decided to keep it a little more local and give up some of the travel. And so I took a gig with a local smaller brokerage. They have a few hundred agents. They're built around fixing and flipping. They do about 100 flips a year. And I do a bunch of training and coaching for them and act as their general manager, basically. And that's my big gig. And then outside of that, I still do the teaching and training for the Miracle Morning Workshops.
Sweet. That's awesome. Okay, so before we jump into, because I know we're going to use the acronym a lot during the show, let's go through what the Sabres are, and then we'll talk about the specific application to sales teams, because I'm really curious about just like what you started to experiment with in the early days with your sales team. So let's go through what the Sabres are.
Yeah, so the Sabres was just a series of best practices. So for those that don't know the Miracle Morning story really well, Hal went through a pretty serious depression and was a life coach and success coach at the time. And those two things don't correspond very well together when you can't climb out of bed and you're supposed to be coaching people to be at the top of their game. And so one of the pieces of advice he had gotten from his friend John Berghoff was basically that he needed to go out and get some blood movement going and exercise. So he went for a run, was listening to Jim Rohn on the run, and connected with that quote that basically your success will never surpass your level of personal development. And so he started researching what were the top personal development tools. He was looking for really one or two tools he could use to develop himself personally, to get through his little funk, and found that there were 6 pretty timeless pieces. And that's what formulates the Sabres. And so not new. It was really just the way of putting them together and making them something that somebody could use all within like 45 minutes to an hour first thing in the morning. So the first S is just silence, meditation, prayer, whatever practice you want to use for some silent time. Just clear the cobwebs in the brain. Then A is for affirmations, been around for a long time. Some people love them, some hate them. There's some wonky ways of teaching them that make them really uncomfortable for people. So we tried to make it a little bit more comfortable for people to use them. V, visualization. So actually visualizing the process, seeing yourself go through it, feeling it, feeling the outcome, feeling the obstacles and how you're going to get around them. And that way it's like practice round for when you actually get there. Exercise. So diving in, getting some blood flow and movement going in the morning. Doesn't have to be your full like 1 hour workout for the day, but just like 10 minutes of moving around and getting things going. Reading. So what are you doing? What are you putting in your mind to learn? And then the last S is for scribing, which is just another term for journaling, because save urge just doesn't have a very good ring to it. So
no, it is a little bit awkward. I will say that. But when I'm listening to you, I had a conversation with a very, very, very good friend of mine and a friend of the show's, Bernice Ross. She and I spoke for about 2.5 hours this morning about a lot of this stuff. Mm-hmm. And she's a psychologist and a therapist and a lot of other things. And she was talking about, Greg, I want you to sit down. I want you to write out what's going on in your life, because I got some very big things that are changing in my life, some good, some bad, some whatever. And I'm like, well, is it okay if I just put it into a verbal document like on my iPhone? And she's like, no, I need you to put it into written form. And so, I mean, Ryan, would you go a little bit deeper in regards? And I love this. I understand and I know where this conversation is going to go, but could you just explain to everybody why writing it down is so powerful?
Well, yeah. So you're using a lot more of your senses, right? For one thing. So you're actually physically connecting your body to the pen, to the paper, and getting it out. So that's a big one, as opposed to just orally speaking, and it's already mental. And being able to go back and reread it is another big piece of it. So for me, a big part of journaling is I do it right after reading and meditating and whatever, because a lot of times that creates all this open space for creativity for me and thought. And so if I journal after that, I can capture the ideas. I can go back and look at them again. It forces me, if I'm doing it the right way, it forces me to stop thinking about what's next. Because in journaling, I just try and free flow and just keep writing. And if I have to stop and think, I'm basically done at that point. Because then I'm not really journaling, then I'm actually thinking. And that's a totally different ballgame for me. And then the other piece for me about journaling is being able to go back and review it like months later for the last quarter. One of the things that I feel like people fail at a lot is not celebrating their wins. It's really easy to get caught up in like what we didn't get done this week. But if you were to look back 90 days or 180 days or 365 days and look at all the things that we accomplished and sort of where our head was at and what was blocking us a year ago or even 3 months ago, that's no longer blocking us anymore, is huge reason for celebration. So it's a way to go back and celebrate some of those wins. But just in the idea, the act of writing it down is simply just the ability to process and sort of disconnect from it, both emotionally and mentally, so that it's not like something that we're trying to figure out. It's just getting the ideas out on paper.
So when it comes to getting them out on paper, I mean, when it comes to doing the morning, the miracle morning, is there a process that you would recommend? Because a lot of people, I mean, and again, my discussion this morning with my good friend Bernice, it was a very fear. I had a lot of fear in having the talk with her. And kind of what's going to come out of it. And there was a lot of tears and a lot of, emotions and everything else. And, when I got done with it for 2.5 hours, she was I can't talk because it's been a rough day. Matt, don't give me that fucking look.
I'm waiting for words in English to come out of your mouth. That's what I'm waiting for.
Yeah, that's my English. But it was cathartic. It was something that like
Cathartic.
Thank
That's
you.
not the word you're looking for. Yeah.
I told you it's been a rough morning, man. It's been a really rough morning.
Yeah.
But when I came out of it, and I think Ryan, this comes back to what you're talking about, is the fact that like when I got it out, it felt like it was a rebirth. It was something that, and it could be in a micro level. And please, weigh on this anytime you want to. But I feel so incredibly better right now because I got a lot of this off my chest, and I feel, and any of you guys weigh in, that we all carry such immense amounts of shit on our shoulders on a daily basis, personal, professional, emotional, whatever it is. But once you get it out on paper, like I did this morning, it was a release like I haven't felt in a long period of time. And I'm sure you've seen that with a lot of the people who've read the book and do your courses and everything else. Is that right?
Well, a couple things I think that you brought up there that are really important is one, like the pushback to not want to do it, right? Like that fear around it is like completely normal for any new practice, but especially for one like this, where you're talking about like putting like your deepest emotional things out into the world. It almost feels like in a book, right? Like if I put it on paper, what is that? Like, does that mean other people are going to know about it? Does that mean somebody else is going to read it? Like, does it make it true? Like, fuck, what if that is true?
Exactly.
And so I think that fear piece is okay, and that people need to start getting over that. I think the other piece is one of the benefits of having it be part of a daily routine is it doesn't become like a 2.5 hour purge. Like I've been holding on to this stuff for like weeks or months. And then that almost becomes like too difficult to overcome for some people. So I think there's huge benefits around making something like that into something that we do consistently so that we're not holding on to all of that. Because imagine how much space that's renting in your mind and stopping your ability to be productive on a regular basis. If you had 2.5 hours of like unload and like just virtually dumping that out, what was that stopping you from being able to process for all of the time leading up to that, where you were holding all that space in your mind?
But it's not just, 1.5, 2.5 hours, 30 minutes, but that's per day times X amount of time you're holding the bullshit in your brain, in your life, and everything else. Really do the math on that and be like, how much time have I deprived myself of being positive, being, engaged with my spouse, my partner, my significant other, my business partners, whatever else. And it's all because you didn't get started in the right time in the morning by clearing all this stuff out. Yeah, it sounds all woo woo, like, oh, we should light some candles, light some sage up, sing some songs, do some weird dances, and this is going to make life all better. you know. And then Matt's going to go over there and he's going to
Well, I
milk
hadn't
it.
thought that until you said that, Greg.
Well, Matt's going to go over there.
I thought we were talking about writing things in a journal, and then you made it super weird and wooey.
No, and you're going to go over there and milk a camel with each of your fingers, and little, you know, sherbet's going to fall out. I mean, it gets weird, man. It gets weird.
Can you milk me, Greg? Can you milk me?
You have nipples.
It's such a perfect quote.
Brad has nipples.
Yeah. Milk anything with nipples.
Oh, that was awesome.
Oh man! For any of you that's under the age of 25 listening that has no idea what reference that was, go watch Meet the Parents, and you'll thank us later.
No, it's got to say Meet the Fuckers, not Meet the Parents.
No,
it's Meet the Fockers.
Was it Meet the Fockers? Okay.
Yes.
I don't know about that, but anyway. Okay,
That was the
here's
second one, I think.
is the second one. Okay, so here's a question for you, Ryan. When you're doing the workshops and you're teaching this material to people, and a lot of times you're doing these like, and I get that's only one day. It's not like they're able to go away and do some of these things and then come back and give you feedback. But what are some of the common questions or maybe sticking points that you hear people bring up in those workshops just to even get started?
Just even imagining like getting up in the morning and creating the time to do it is an issue for most people.
Yeah.
Like thinking about all the things that we have that we're already currently doing when we get up in the morning. Like for me, like 3 kids out the door to school. Somebody asked earlier, like, does it have to be first thing in the morning? Well, not for everybody. So if you've got the flexibility to do it when you want, then that's fine. But for me, the only way that I could start implementing was getting up at like 5 a.m. because my kids were up at 6.
Yeah.
And then as my kids got older, they sort of like would join in. I mean, I've got pictures of like my 6-year-old meditating next to me, just they would imitate. But yeah, I mean, that's a difficulty in itself. And then there's hangups for different people on every one of the Sabres. Right? Like silence. So for me, it was meditation right out of the gates. I was like, you want me to even sit still for 10 fucking minutes? Like, let alone like clear my mind. And I always had this, I had the wrong idea of what meditation was, which was part of the problem, right? I had this idea that meditation meant that I wasn't thinking and I was able to clear my mind from any thought. And that really is not what it is. I mean, once you practice it for a while, you recognize that it's actually just recognizing all the shit that is popping up in your head and just not getting hung up on it in the moment. And by doing that enough time, it actually allows you to create some space so that it's not so constant and that we're not being berated by the billions of thoughts that are going through our brain, so that we free up some space for creative and productive work. So,
I mean, realistically, Ryan, I mean, that sounds very easy to do, but I mean, how you know, and again, it's not, I mean, I've tried it. Trust me. I've read your book many times. And it was incredibly hard for me to sit down and be silent for a minute, but break that down for half a second. When you say be silent for a minute or be silent for 30 minutes or whatever it's going to be, what does that look like? Do you literally have to be silent, or do you just have to recognize to the fact that like you are just going to be involved in your environment that you're currently in?
So there are lots of different ways to meditate that can be done throughout daily life and whatever. But for me, in order to develop the practice initially, it required me to be silent. And just to be able to sit back and focus on breath and take the focus off of all of the things that were going on around me, all of the different things that were interruptions, basically, that would be going on around me. It required me creating space to allow me to do that. Now, it started with, hey, maybe I only made it 30 seconds or a minute or 5 minutes or whatever. And then eventually it became 10 minutes. Now, there doesn't have to be silent. So I use guided meditation a lot, which means inherently it is not silent, but I am. And so...
Well, what does that mean for a second? I mean, so your environment's not... Gene, what are you doing?
I'm looking at the Sabres stuff. I'm building up questions.
Okay. I thought you were just being a dick. But okay.
No, I got the book. I'm going to the Sabres.
It looks like Gene's just sitting there. He's like, Gene's got like a cigar. He's flipping through the newspaper during the show.
No. I'm actually participating. You have this book close by?
I don't.
I don't think you probably do. So
Loser, Greg. Okay. So guided meditation, Ryan, I'm assuming you mean like using one of the apps where it's taking you, like you plug in the earbuds so you physically are quiet. And it also occupies your mind, but it's not silent in the sense that you're just sitting there listening to the birds chirp at 5 a.m. It's a guided meditation, which is in your ear. So that's what he's talking about. Greg.
And I've gotten to the point where I actually can just sit there and be silent, but I could have never done it the first day. Yeah. And so I use the Calm app still. Like most days of the week, I use an app called Calm, and I do like a 10-minute guided meditation. And a lot of it is just natural noises and things like that. But there's somebody walking through reminding you to come back and focus on the breath again, because I do get lost in thought constantly in the middle of meditation practice, years later. So
I have Calm right here on my phone, and I love this thing. I mean, it is the single best app ever. I mean, if you listen to this thing, I mean, it will put you to sleep like that. It is unbelievably in a good way. Like,
no, I understand.
It'll calm your brain. It'll slow everything down. It's fantastic.
I do use it for sleep sometimes too. It does have some good sleep meditation in there. The other one I started using actually is the Peloton app. It has a bunch of really good meditations in it as well. It has it has yoga classes, walking classes, running classes for outdoor running, meditation in it. So it's another good one.
I mean, Matt is a huge cyclist. So I mean, Matt, this should be something that you could take on, right?
I'm a huge oh, you mean the Peloton? yeah, sure, Greg. Okay, so here's what I'm curious about, because now that we've covered kind of the basics, listen, Greg knows how I feel about cycling. My dad tried to get me into cycling once, and we did like the whole 20-mile ride thing. He tried to get me a kit in the whole 9 yards. It did not work. I took one look at that, and I'm like, yeah, that's not for me. Okay, so
was it the outfit, Matt, that killed it for you?
The spandex.
It was the whole thing. I actually, even if the outfit, now that's bad enough, but even if I could set aside my aesthetic taste, the sensation of pedaling up a hill, I would rather run up the side of a mountain. And this is no joke. I enjoy the sensation of running uphill. I don't enjoy the sensation of cycling uphill. I don't know why. I don't know what the difference is. If I could just stand up on a bike, that's not bad. I don't mind just, like I loved riding a bike as a kid, but cycling, like where the challenge is just to crank at 30, 40 miles an hour and just keep the legs pistons. No, just not fun for me.
This show took a really strange turn.
I know. We went down a rabbit hole of cycling. All right. So needless to say, I will not be purchasing a Peloton anytime soon. I'd rather pay someone to make me work out.
Let's be honest too. I don't have a Peloton, so I'm not a cycler, but you can get the Peloton app and use all of their workout classes. It's
gotcha. Okay.
$13 a month or something like that. So.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, so what I want to know is, take me back to the days when you started working with, like you had already kind of been using it in your personal life, but you started to bring it into the office, into a sales team environment. These are people where who knows what their morning routine is like. They're probably like everybody else, rolling into the office, having just picked up their Starbucks and yelled at their kids on the way to school. Mm-hmm. So what were those early experiments like in using this stuff in a team environment?
So I think the biggest thing for me is that I had a pretty deep understanding about the fact that energy really impacts everything that we do, especially in sales. Yeah. And the energy that was coming into the room for like a morning meeting was not going to work for the energy to get on the phone and start talking to people. Yeah. And so what Sabres allowed for me with a sales team is to shift that, right? To break the pattern and leave what was the morning as the morning routine of rushing around, getting kids out the door, whatever, having a shitty night before, and eliminate even just the idea of rushing into the office, like strolling in at 8:05 for an 8 o'clock and feeling panicked already to start the day. Like, it's just not the right way to start the day. So giving up like a half hour of time to go through some of these savers and just quick 5-minute meditation, right? Affirmations about like setting the mindset for what the rest of your day is going to look like, picturing what that next hour of calls is going to look like and watching it go the way that you want it to, seeing like the number one objection you're going to get and watch yourself overcome it, and then get on the phone and look at the level of confidence that you get on the phone with, right? So those were the things that started impacting results within the team. Is when you change the energy that you're bringing to put in front of clients and prospects and potential clients and team members, then it starts to shift the outcome. And when you do that first thing in the morning, and that's the way that your day starts, then that's the way that your day goes. And so that's what the routine allowed.
Gene, you've been creepy over there. So tell me what some of the questions you have after reading the book.
Well, I don't. Some of these things make me uncomfortable, right? Yeah. But I know that they're all necessary. So, when I say uncomfortable, I think for me, I'm a weirdo anyway. Like when it comes to, all right, I want to start this process. I'm going to dedicate 5 minutes every morning to each of the SAVERS, right? No problem. But then I feel like I get off track because I won't do the A tomorrow. And I'll be like, it's like one of those things where I fall out of rhythm for some reason. I hold myself overly accountable in a stupid way, right? And so the rest of it falls off and fails. It's almost like when I go to eat, like if I'm in really good health, my eating is flawless. I'm at the gym all the time. Then I have a cheesesteak and I'm like, man, tomorrow I'm going to get Burger King. It's easy to fall out of it, But I think for me, the one thing I wanted to talk to Ryan about was, not really, I have about 30 things, but one of the things off the top of my head is you were saying some things are tougher for people than others. And for me, it's it's the A. Tell me what the A is again.
Affirmations.
Thank you. Affirmations.
Yeah.
That's always been very difficult for me. Number one, because I don't know what to say to myself, right? And number two, when I write it down and then I repeat it, I sound like a psycho. So help me with that. Help me with the affirmations. Any tips or tricks there?
So I hated affirmations when I started, to be 100% honest. I was not a fan of them when I learned. I mean, I had heard them before through Tony Robbins stuff and whatever. Right. But when Hal put them in the book and I was doing them, I was going through the motions every morning and just trying to engage with it. And I didn't love them. And the reason I didn't love them is because for me, I think it's about integrity for me. There was a lack of integrity in what I was saying because I was saying things in the future as if they were true today. And that didn't resonate very well for me. And so my subconscious was calling me out on that. And it was that's bullshit, right? I'm a millionaire over and over and over again doesn't make me a millionaire. And so my subconscious no, you're not. You were scrambling to pay the bill last month, right? So I see the discomfort there because that was my discomfort. So what we added to them, and one of the ways that we teach them in the workshop, is to actually add in what is it that you're actively doing that's making that statement true, right? So if somebody were to say I am healthy, right? And they're not, they're not the healthiest person on earth right now. Then instead of just saying I am healthy, because there is power in preaching that to your subconscious over and over again. I understand the benefit of it, doing it exactly like that, but it didn't work for me because I just immediately was no, that's not true. So I would say things like I am healthy because I start every day with exercise and a healthy breakfast. Right. And then if the next thing that I went and did after my miracle morning was worked out and had a healthy breakfast, it started to make the I am healthy thing true. And the next day, the affirmation was easier because I am healthy because of these two things that I'm actually doing consistently every day. One starts to build on the other. I start to get more healthy because I'm doing these things that make me healthy. And the affirmation's easier because I'm actually doing the stuff every day. And I know that actually makes me healthy. Right. So tying them to something that you're actually doing.
Well, sorry, Gene, go ahead.
No, it's okay. I mean, that was, first of all, it was great. I love that because you're right. Eventually you are going to be healthy if you follow the rules, right? What you're saying. And then when you start to say, I am healthy, you can even drop the other stuff if you want, because now it is true. Right. So I think the only other thing that I was thinking about was, which I have a hard time with, is timing. So I have 6 things I got to handle every day. Is it 5 minutes for each? Do I set a stopwatch for each thing? Do I read for 7 minutes and today and tomorrow it's 11? You know what I'm saying there?
I do. Yep.
Is it an hour in total every day? Is it 30 minutes or am I overthinking it?
So this is probably the most commonly asked question. And I would say it doesn't matter. Anything's better than nothing. The goal is an hour, right? And when people are starting out, I encourage them to do 10 minutes of each. And the reason I do that is because the one that we always slack on is probably the one that we need the most because it's the one that we're the worst at. And so by forcing the 10 minutes, it's how do I build the muscle, build the muscle, build the muscle? And then you customize it for yourself. Some people already work out for 45 minutes in the morning anyway. So if that's the case, they might do an hour and a half long miracle morning. They're not going to do only a 10-minute workout and then wait till they're done and then go do 45 minutes. They might just do their 45-minute workout in the middle of it. So I think you customize it to make it work for you. The one thing I caution people on is don't skip the one you don't like, because it's probably an area that we need the most help. If Greg was you know what, journaling makes me uncomfortable, so I'm not going to do it. Well, it's that's probably the one you'd get the most out of.
Right.
So I don't think it matters as much how much time on each, except for the fact don't skip the one just because you dislike it because it's uncomfortable for you.
You know, and I think that there's a lot of power in that comment because I mean don't eat the frog, eat the nasty frog, eat the dirty frog, whatever that book is.
Eat the frog, Brian Tracy. And it is doing the thing you don't want to do first thing right in the morning. I'll be real honest. I'm always honest with you guys. Like this morning, I woke up at 1 a.m. Some really fucked up thoughts going through my head. I got a lot of things personally and professionally going on that are just eating me alive. And I've been chewed up for the last couple of days on different things. And I think I need to go and do the miracle morning process right now, because when I had the conversation with my friend Bernice, she brought out and she made me talk about and maybe confront a lot of my demons and everything else that are eating me alive. And I think all of us, we all have demons. We all have things that we don't like in our lives. And what you guys have created, Ryan, if people are brave enough, and I do mean brave, and I'm not joking. If you're brave enough to face your demons, to face the things that you're not perfect at, and the things that people, but you think that they make fun of you about or whatever else. When you face those, you become more powerful because you've looked behind the veil. You see what you think everyone else is seeing, but it's not as bad as it is it? Well, and it gives you control, right?
Yeah.
And so just simply by taking ownership of it eliminates a whole bunch of the fear around it anyway, because now you've taken control of the situation. You can actually do something about it. Or you recognize the fact that you can't do anything about it, that's just the way it is. But at least knowing even that, it eliminates the need to stress about it.
Well, it's like the political climate we're in right now. If you're pro-Trump, not pro-Trump, I mean, this is a very 10,000 foot view here. But that's the kind of stuff like, look, the four of us on the show right now, we have literally no control of what's going to happen with the political elections that are going to take place. But people are losing their skulls in regards to what's going to take place. And I mean, if you can just say, hey, man, look, these are my views, left, right, middle, wherever you land, but you don't get caught up in it. Is there some sort of satisfaction, Ryan, in just being able to be calm with the reality that, like, hey, man, I you know what? I fucking love Trump. I fucking hate Trump, right? Either one. But there's a satisfaction in knowing that you have your point of view, but yet it's okay that other people don't have that point of view. And again, guys, everyone who's listening to this, guys, I'm just literally using the largest, most inflammatory thing I can possibly think of right now to kind of get Ryan's point of view. So Ryan, love to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, I think that's what the savers are kind of for. Like I find myself using them a lot. I mean, this COVID situation, even leaving just like the political climate, but people getting sick, people like businesses closing down, the impact that it's had with kids being home from school. I mean, look, I'm working from home. I have 3 kids that are homeschooling. I'm divorced as a single parent. Like there's a lot of things that were not ideal situation for the last 3 months in order to keep the business going, move the needle forward. And so some of those I had control over them and some of them I didn't. And just taking inventory of things like that, of, hey, what are the pieces I have control over? What are the pieces I have no control over? And then realizing midday, like when some of those things start spiraling out of control, when I lose control of where the kids are at with their stuff and trying to get work done, just taking a break and giving myself the space to, I have an acupressure mat that I lay on sometimes when I meditate, and I'll do that in the middle of the day. Like I'll just shut it down in the middle of the day. Doesn't matter what I had planned on working on right then or what I had planned on doing with the kids. And it's like, guys, I need 10 minutes. And then when I come back, it's different because I'm not hung up in whatever that thing was that I didn't have control over. And then it's like a reboot and we get to approach it from a much different angle and hopefully come out with an actual like positive experience or positive answer.
No, totally true. And Matt, these are his kids, and he always is worried about their health and everything else.
It's as you can imagine, and structural integrity of whatever home they're living in. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, but I do think, as far as just to go back to your point, Greg. Yes, like I think the most difficult thing about this whole year has just been that it continually aggressively pulls your focus away from the things that you set out to do for this year. And I think that's where a morning routine can really make a difference, is recentering yourself, getting down into some form of silence, and then affirmations, whatever you're comfortable with, to really ground yourself in why am I getting up this morning and doing what I'm doing, as opposed to just either laying in bed or diving. If the other side of that is like getting super involved in staying informed, right? Reading, watching, things on the news and stuff like that. So there seems to be like the two modes that people are being pulled into, is either going super down whatever rabbit hole they're going down, or pulling away completely. And yeah, it's challenging in this time to stay focused on the things that you want, and not just trying to avoid the things you don't want. And that's where something like that can come in. One quick point on the affirmations. I talked to my business coach about this, I think last year, and he told me, stop putting it in the present tense and put it in the future perfect tense. So set a date where your affirmations will be based on. I picked 10 years. So when I sit down and do my quote unquote affirmations, which I don't really call them that, but I've got this written out on a document that I keep on my phone, right? So I sit down and I imagine myself in the house that I want to own 10 years from now, and I am 40 something. And I still look like I do now, so nobody can tell. But I'm 40 something, and I'm sitting in that house, and I'm looking out over the pool and over the ocean, right? And I'm running through this, and every statement starts with, I will have become this. I will have done that. I will have created this. I will have written this number of books. Like it's all, so it's a different tense. So it kind of gets around that subconscious objection where your subconscious goes, yeah, but that's not true yet. You're like, no, but I'm sitting myself down in the future, reflecting back on what my life has been like over the last 10 years. And when you put it in that phrase, that was his idea for putting in that phrasing. So I've been experimenting with that for like the last 9 months, and so far so good.
So instead of putting it into the future tense, why don't you put it into the current tense of, I have created, this is my reality. This is already what I've done. I mean, what's your thoughts on that?
My business coach's thoughts on that is that he does not agree with the NLP part of it, that the present tense speaks deeply to her, because he feels like the subconscious is the most powerful part. So if you have a subconscious that rejects that, the most important thing is to get around that subconscious objection by changing the language.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now that creating the bridge between I am X because I'm doing A, B, and C, I think that's also a great idea. That's another way of getting over that subconscious objection that, well, I'm not a millionaire yet. I'm not healthy yet. I don't have a six-pack yet. Those are all true things that your subconscious is throwing up. And there's different ways to get around that.
Well, Matt, I don't know about you, but I do have a six-pack, and I am a millionaire.
Yes, yours is located in the fridge.
I was going to say it's a 12-pack, not a 6.
Yeah. I think you have one delivered every day to your place.
They don't call him the beast for nothing.
Hey, you're such an asshole. I love you for it.
I do what I can. All right. So as we start to wind down, because I know we'll have one or two questions, and then we might have some questions from the audience. But before we do that, Ryan, what's the best way to connect with you and get the book and just stay up to date? Because you've got a course in the works too.
Yeah, so the book is on Amazon, Miracle Morning for Salespeople. And then we also have the companion guide, which is what we use like when you're actually going through doing the workshop. And that's on Amazon as well. If somebody just wants to go through all the exercises, it's about 120 pages of exercises in there. So Greg, when you were talking about what do we do? How do we journal? What do we journal? A bunch of like exercises people can work through over like a 12-week period of going through is in there as well. And then the Explosive Sales Growth and Real Estate books on Amazon as well. And then on Facebook, if people are there, they can find me in the Facebook community. I'm in the Miracle Morning community, but there's also a Miracle Morning for Salespeople community. If people want more specific content on that, I post in there like at least 3 or 4 days a week and do some live stuff in there. And then explosivesalesgrowth.com is the website. And that's where all the future courses will be too, as those start coming out.
Very, very cool. All right.
Love that.
Yes. So, Greg, same question for you. What's the best way to connect and get on the phone?
Guys, go ahead and hit me up on Facebook. I have a new training program that's going to be out that is out, and I'll post a link in this later in regards for training real estate agents in regards to getting more sales. But I mean, Ryan, when it comes down to what you're putting out there, I personally want to go through the program because I think it's going to be very, very powerful. And I had a coach once that told me, Greg, you're very loud. And I'm like, yes, I am very loud. Shut up, Matt. I see you fucking nodding.
I lightly nodded. That was not even an aggressive nod. It was a light nod.
And Gene is grinning from ear to ear going, hee, this is a great battle. What's going to happen? But you know, what I got to say is that like, when he told me that I was very loud and I was going to become very quiet, I didn't believe him. And when I started doing his work, which I believe, Ryan, your book and everything else that you and Hal have done, it's going to help people. And this is no joke. This is going to help people understand their silent power. Like what's really brewing inside of you. What do you have to offer? You haven't offered the world to yourself, to your spouse, your significant other yet, because you're so concerned about everything else. And that's why I think this interview is absolutely out of the park amazing. And I can't wait to do it myself. And I truly appreciate you being on the show, man. This is good stuff. I needed this show today because fuck. You want to know what my life looks like right now? Here, let me show you.
There we go.
That's it. There it is. Dumpster Fire 2020. Right there.
Greg, I appreciate you having me on. I mean, I want to say that I think one of the most important things, like you just said, is it opens up what people's sort of internal fire is. And one of the things that I hope people gain from it and what it did for me is it created a ton of clarity around what was important. Mm-hmm. And it makes the path forward a lot easier. Yeah. So one of the biggest things that I've seen in coaching people in their goal setting and the issues that arise in their goal setting is that so many of the goals that they set are just arbitrary. Yeah. And they don't actually carry any emotional or personal meaning to them. And so there's no fire. And so as soon as obstacles get in the way, with no passion, no fire behind it, with arbitrary goals, they just disappear. And if you ask most people 90 days into their goals, are they going to hit their goal for the end of the year? Like they gave up on it 70 days ago.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, because you wake up on January 1 and you're like, I'm going to be a millionaire this year, but there's no reason behind it. And so therefore, like what you said, there's not going to be any follow through. I mean, I literally punched my shower wall this morning, or no, this is yesterday. I punched it yesterday. I punched it so fucking hard. I thought I broke one of my tiles because I was so upset about something. And the reason why I'm telling you this is that like, that was an anchor for me to make a difference and make a change and do something, that's not in my life right now. And it really resonated with me. And that's the power of your program. It's having something that you're so passionate about that nothing will get in the way. And like, I mean, Matt has always been trying to get his kids off of diabetes medicine, but he has never been able to do it.
It's a process.
Yeah,
it's process.
Have you journaled about it yet?
Oh,
I need to start. Oh my God,
guys! Hey, no disrespect to anybody overweight. It's just a funny thing that Matt and I always joke about because of the fact that like he's like so healthy, he doesn't have kids, and they're not fat, and it's just a funny thing. So I hope you guys get a kick out of that.
Oh my God. Okay. Wow. All right. Moving on with the round of how do we connect with you, Gene? How do we connect with you?
Well, this week we're going to do Facebook. I'm starting a new series this week. It's called "What's Bothering Greg." It's going to be a Facebook Live. From what I can tell, there's plenty of content.
Yes,
clearly. Out that he's punching shit.
I was going to say the icon for whatever Facebook group you're going to start for "What's Wrong with Greg" should just be a picture of a broken bathroom tile.
I love it. I love it. But no. So I want to offer something up. I got if you go to my personal Facebook page, I released a 12-minute video yesterday. There's my surprise look again. I released a 12-minute video yesterday on some pretty interesting stuff going on in the world. It's sort of related to politics, but it's not a political thing. I was told by one of the people that watched it and shared it that it's going to end me up on a watch list, which is great. So
I'm definitely watching that then.
Oh yeah, it was a good
100%.
one. It has to do with free speech, the Facebook algorithm, how that works to your advantage and against you, deep fakes, and what the political climate looks like. So go on there, take a look at that. If you think it's worth it, share it out for me. Let the people see it. That's pretty much it. So Facebook.com/Gene Volpe.
Matt, where can everybody find you?
Just picturing all of Gene's fans getting their Facebook accounts banned because they shared one of Gene's videos. But no, by all means, do it. Okay. Yes, microfamousbook.com. Get a copy of the book. You get it for free plus shipping. So it costs you just the amount that it takes to get it. It's half the cost of what it is on Amazon. You can always go buy it there if you prefer, or if you want the digital copy, you can get it on Amazon as well. And then go listen to the Microfamous podcast, microfamouspodcast.com.
Dude, that is awesome. I'm actually a subscriber to your podcast, Matt. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Neither did I until I just said it. So
Yeah,
I'll
exactly.
do that. I'll do that today.
That's what I thought. That's what I figured. I don't picture you sitting around like with your feet up on the wall, twirling your hair, listening to my podcast.
Just like that's like, oh, it's
Yeah.
so interesting.
Exactly.
It's so fascinating.
Yeah, exactly.
No, but it actually, in no jokes. I told my parents about your book, and I did read it. I have read your book, and it is really, really good.
You will now, right after this.
Exactly. I'll do it as soon as I get off this, so that I can never be counted on this.
That's going to be your R every morning in your savers.
Yes.
There you go.
Reading.
Now my voice will be buried in your head, Greg, even more than it already is.
Uh,
All right. So Ryan, tell us just briefly, because we had an interesting just little peek into this, the course that you're building for buying businesses. Give us a peek of that, and then we'll call it a day.
Yeah. So Matt, you hopped onto the Elevate Live series that I was doing, and that came from Amber Vilhauer. She runs NG Enterprises marketing company, and her goal was to elevate basically the level of conversations that were happening during the COVID thing around how people were taking care of themselves, their families, their businesses, and I sort of ran with that. She asked me to host some of those. And in the process, I ran back into Cody Sanchez, who is somebody that I've been on an entrepreneur panel with like several years ago out in California. And in interviewing and just talking with her about what she was doing, she was talking about what was happening with small local businesses right now and how they were being impacted by what was going on with COVID. And the fact that just in general, there's so many small local businesses that are owned by baby boomers looking to go into retirement that want to unload their business, that actually have something of value and maybe don't even realize it. Some of which are just going to close those businesses down without taking advantage of the fact that there is value to the fact that they've built up a customer base and have a product or service that's already up and running and have systems in place and things like that. And there are tons of people going into startup mode and struggling through startups. And on average, just some statistics. I mean, like 90 to 95% of all startups won't exist 5 years later. And the numbers for success are much higher for people buying businesses that are already in place and then improving upon them. And so people just don't know a lot about it. There's a lot of interest. There's not a lot of great content out there on it. There's a lot of ways to make missteps. And there's some huge opportunities. And so we're just trying to highlight those for people. And we're building out the content right now. It's like 12 modules. It'll go through all the way. How do I figure out where and how and what type of business would I want to run, and getting some clarity around that. So we're not just randomly buying businesses that we wouldn't want in the first place, getting some understanding around those pieces, learning how to find and talk to the owners of those and figure out which ones might be a win-win situation. What does that conversation look like? And then getting some training around how do we value those things? How do we make an offer? How do we get them under contract? What's the financing of it look like? Because that's another piece too. Like, you don't necessarily have to have a ton of money to be able to do this. In fact, startups may cost more than buying, because in a lot of these cases, the people selling them would be really happy to finance them out anyway and have a recurring income coming in for the next several years, 10, 15, 20 years. So
That's interesting.
There's lots of different ways to finance that opportunity. And then if you haven't run a business before, how do you take somebody else's business, and what does that transition look like in order to make it successful? And what are the opportunities for growth in that business as well? So
yeah, love it. Yeah, it's I've got a book. I guess it's not sitting here within reach, but so Richard Koch, the guy that wrote 80-20 Principle,
Yep,
wrote two really amazing books called Simplify and the star principle. And where he made his hundreds of millions, starting from just being a highly paid consultant back in the day at Bain, and coming out of nowhere and all of a sudden being a multi-hundred millionaire, was doing exactly that. Just getting into an ownership share of a business that he could see had potential, because he has a strategic mindset and the ability to grow a business if it's the right kind of business. And I think that's the future for anybody that has a sales skill set, or the ability to build a sales system, or a marketing skill set, or anybody that can come in and kick butt in operations. Like, that's the path to wealth, is to get into a business that's already established, find something that has potential, get in there, get some ownership, work some magic, and then watch it grow. So I think that's why I wanted to kind of highlight that course, because that's an even another avenue for wealth besides just building a high income.
Yeah, so if people are on the lookout for that, it's called Unconventional Acquisitions, and it's launching to friends and family and VIP as like a coming soon pre-order, probably in the next like 2 to 3 weeks, and it'll probably launch publicly like 6 to 8 weeks from now. So I'm excited for that to happen. And for anybody who actually owns a business that's looking to expand and grow it, one of the things that it does cover is that merger and acquisition piece, about being able to do the same thing with businesses in the same field that you're already running, and what type of economies of scale that brings for people, or economies of scope where you add a new wing to your business that is closely tied to what you're already doing.
Mm-hmm. Love it. That's awesome. Very, very cool. All right, guys. Greg, so we need to pick a color for the bow that we're wrapping around this package of an episode, right?
We do, Matt. And that's your job. So get on your job.
It is my job. It is my job. In honor of the Miracle Morning, the cover of the book that I'm picturing in my mind, I'm going with blue, as in sky blue bow around this episode.
Sky blue. Nothing better than sky blue. You know, sky blue is my favorite color ever. You know, so Matt, I'm glad you picked that.
Or at least it will be, because then you're going to pick it after we get off the show, and you're going to make it your new favorite color. Make it true.
Yes. Hey guys. Hey, look. I mean, Matt and I fuck around all the time, and we are so grateful to have Gene on as our co-host, and Ryan, you are an exceptional guest on the show, and you've got such a great product. And you guys, please go out and buy his book, get involved with his programs. Hire Matt as your personal car washer on Saturday mornings, and the life is gonna be good. But Matt's not smiling. I don't understand why he's not smiling. I do these things just to make him smile or grimace, and he's not doing it. It's not that really hurts my heart. That hurts my heart, Matt. It hurts my heart. Okay. Anyways, Ryan, you're amazing. Gene, thank you for laughing. You're welcome, Ryan. All right, guys. Hey, we love you to pieces. Until next time, peace out, ninjas. We go.